Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Bree, and this is Bree Plus 3. Welcome if you're new, and welcome back. I am a family vlogger and a mom vlogger. I am also a military wife, and we do vlogs Mondays and Fridays, and I do sit down videos every other Wednesday. So if that's something that seems interesting to you, please hit subscribe and turn on the bell notifications so that you get notified every time I post a new video. This video today is a video that I was really excited to do. Am really excited to do. I have traveled a lot in my career as a wife and mom, and I have traveled across many state lines. I have flown, I have driven, I feel like I have done everything except travel by horseback. But a lot of those times I traveled with my husband, who was another pair of hands. It was very helpful to have someone else along to, you know, juggle the kids or the dogs, or, you know, just, you have things come up when you're traveling, you know, one of you can run in and go to the bathroom if the kids are sleeping, those sorts of things. But sometimes you end up, as a mom, having to travel by yourself with children, and that can be kind of a chore. It can be kind of difficult. And so I sat down and I thought out some of the best ways that my husband and I have found that have helped us travel with our young children, just to kind of make things easier on ourselves. And some of them are tips and tricks for when you have someone else in the vehicle, or some of them are just tips and tricks that I picked up traveling by myself with kids. So hopefully you'll enjoy this video, and give it a thumbs up if you like it, and stick around. It's because I have a massive diagram that I made out of the things that helped me when I traveled. So I'm looking down to try and make sure that I don't forget anything. But I broke this video up into 4 different sections. Infant, toddler, small kid, young kid, and teenager. I have 2 children, and one is about to be 6 in March, and one is currently 18 months. I did offer this travel guide. It is mostly just road tripping. It's not flying, sorry. I haven't had a ton of experience with that. I have flown with a baby a few times, but it was very smooth. My son slept the whole time, both times, and was just an angel child, thankfully. So I don't really have much experience with that. Most of our experience has been with driving many hours. So, you know. So, starting off, we'll start off with infant. I think that the main thing that you have to figure out before you start traveling with an infant is your feeding schedule. Now, I nurse both my children, but I also bottle fed them. They were both. And so it was easy to sit down and go, okay, these are the times that I know that they really like to nurse. And then these are the times where I can just give them a bottle, and it is easier to maybe do that in the car seat, and you don't have to stop, or you can have everything ready to go before you stop. Just quickly feed them, burp them, and then you're on your way. And you can know when you're gonna have to stop, and you can kind of schedule those stops and kind of go, okay, well, we'll probably have to stop and pee about every 3 hours, and then okay, they have to eat every 3 hours, so we'll just go ahead and stop and do it all then, or you know, some along those ways. But I found that having their feeding schedules down and really knowing took a lot of the anxiety out of it and the stress out of it, and just knowing that if they were fussy, that it wasn't because they were hungry, because we had been very diligent about making sure they were fed. The other thing that was extremely important was making sure that you had your diaper bag packed efficiently, not just everything kind of thrown in there and cattywampus. My husband hates that word. But having things in its specific place and easy to reach, having it either right in the middle, behind the center console so that you can get it while you're driving, or having it in the front passenger seat or the floor, having it where you can reach it. You have everything in its specific place so that you can easily grab it, like extra pacifiers or a diaper rag, or those just like sorts of things to help a teether, you know, so that you can give it to them, to give them something to do. Those kinds of things also made it easier and less hectic. Something else that we made sure that we had always was a spare change of clothes, maybe even multiple ones, and like separate from our bags that we had packed. We usually stuck them in the diaper bag, and put them in easily accessible places. I think that's the key thing when you're traveling with an infant, is to have all of those essentials in easily accessible places. So really having your diaper bag stocked efficiently, because, you know, they tend to have diaper explosions, or when they need to be fed, you can easily get to those things without having to pull out a million different bags. Also, something that we tended to go through a lot was burp rags and burp cloths. My dogs just entered moment. And a bag. Because our kids both had acid reflux when they were babies, and so we went through diaper rags so fast. Burp cloths, whatever you call them, they just spit up constantly, and not just spitting up, but just like projectile vomiting. So also the spare clothes came in handy. Diaper rags, those kinds of things were very essential for infants. And just, I think the most important thing to remember when you're traveling with a baby, or any child for that matter, of whatever age, they're gonna get antsy no matter how old they are. If it's a long trip, if it's a short trip, kids are unpredictable. Things happen. You're either gonna run into people who are completely understanding and they have kids and they know what it's like, or you're gonna run into people who are just complete and total jerks and judge you and eye roll. And you just have to let it roll off your back as a parent, as a mom, and just know that, like, you're doing your best, you're taking care of your kid the best you can, and that you're moving along swiftly and they'll get over it. It's not the end of the world. So moving on to toddlers. Oh, toddlers. I don't know what people are talking about when they tell you, oh, infants are so hard. They're so hard. They never sleep. They keep you up all night. No, I prefer the infant stage over the toddler stage. Okay? These kids drive me crazy. They get all sassy. They don't listen. They got the attitude for days. Okay? Okay. Yeah, no. They kill me. When we traveled with my son, we did a lot of traveling over long hours. 12-hour trips. 18, 24-hour trips. And so we really had to sit down and plan out our trips and schedule them accordingly. For our 12-hour trips, we would typically be going from Virginia Beach, Virginia, down to Central Florida, and that took about 12 hours. And there were times where we would just travel at night, and that is another tip. If you can, If you have someone else with you, because I don't recommend trying to travel at night by yourself with your children. It can get a little sketchy if you have to make stops. It's not always safe, especially in the daytime, but even more at nighttime, it can be even more unsafe. And you get tired. It's easier to stay alert during the day. So I only recommend doing this if you have your spouse or a friend or a family member or somebody else that can travel with you. But if you can, travel when they're sleeping. With my son, it always worked wonders. And so things that we did for those really long trips with him was we made sure that we had toys that were going to entertain him. He had a ton of toys, but not always were those toys entertaining to him, or would keep him entertained for long hours. So we one time would go out and buy just a couple of very Dollar Tree cheapy toys, or go to the like $1, $3, and $5 section at Target and buy just a couple of little things and give them to him when we were in the car. So it would be like he was getting something new, and it would be more exciting, and it would keep his attention for a little bit longer. We also scoured Pinterest for ages, or at least I did. My husband didn't, but I did. Scoured Pinterest for ages on things to help keep my child entertained, and I did come up with a few things that actually worked. One thing was getting a metal cookie sheet, just a cheap one. It didn't have to be anything fancy. He really didn't care. But I went and got a cookie sheet, and then went and got a bunch of just different magnets, animal magnets, because he was super into animals, and people magnets, and all just so many magnets, letter magnets, and put them all in a bag, and then would just hand the sheet to him, the cookie sheet to him, and the magnets to him, and he would sit there and play with them and move them around and stick them to the cookie sheet. And that really kept him entertained. It was just a good and easy way to keep him happy for a little while. Also, if you're flying, that was one of the things that I did when I flew, but I got something smaller than the cookie sheet, just like a little pan, or something that was magnetic and got magnets that he could stick them to, or got those window art stickers so that he could play on the window with them, and that kept them entertained. Something else that we did was my son loved to get our wallets and pull everything out of our wallets and look at them, and he could do that for hours. And so I went and got a cheap wallet, nothing fancy, again, super cheap, just a couple bucks, and got some of our old cards that we didn't use anymore, old gift cards that didn't have any money left on them, pictures that I just could quickly go get the easy to laminate thing, and laminated the pictures, and then just stuck it all in the wallet and handed it to him. And he would pull it out and put it back in, and pull it out and look at it and be like, oh, that's daddy, that's mommy, and just played with it for hours. And he thought he was getting away with something because it was a wallet and cards. And so that was something that we did to help keep him entertained. One thing that he also liked to do was color. We got those No Mess Crayola markers. Those really did work great, and they didn't stain anything. And that was kind of like a last resort when everything else kind of went out the window. And he really liked to do that for a little while too. So that kept him entertained. Other things that is key, snacks. Making sure that you have tons of snacks. We like to make sure that we had extra sippy cups already filled up with water, so that if we were driving and we couldn't necessarily reach back and search for a sippy cup, we could just grab it and give it to him. And then at our next stop, we would get it and put it up with the other sippy cups, and it was just kind of like a rotating sippy cup. We would have maybe 2 or 3 sippy cups total. Also, he likes those applesauce pouches, and our daughter does too. And they also have other pouches that have other things in them besides applesauces. But they love those. But when they're little and the same age as like my daughter, 18 months, or, around that age, they just will squeeze them like crazy, and they make a mess everywhere, and then they end up with stuff all over them, and it's just a pain in the butt. And I actually found these amazing silicone toppers that go on the pouches that are mess free. And when they squeeze them, it doesn't come out. They have a little lid on it. You can close it up, stick it back in the diaper bag, and then just give it back to them when they're ready for it again. It was a lifesaver, and those really saved my life a few times on trips because she just wanted something to mess around with. She was kind of hungry, but she didn't really want to eat anything, and so she could kind of play with it and eat it at the same time, but not make a mess. And so that was beautiful. The last resort that we had for just our sanity was the tablets. We each, my husband and I, have a tablet, and especially now that Netflix has this amazing thing where you can download movies so you don't have to have Wi-Fi to watch them. We download about 5 or 6, and in a moment of just deep desperation, we'll pull out some headphones, hand it off, and just say, okay, watch a movie. Now, when they're about my daughter's age, and 18 months, 2, they don't necessarily like to just sit there and watch a movie. I know my daughter doesn't. She'll just throw it on the floor. So that might not work for you at that age. But that also kind of carries over into the other 2 categories for a young kid or a teenager. Something like that, just to kind of keep them occupied and to help the hours pass by, seamlessly. On to the next category, young kid. We like to try to abstain from any kind of electronics with my son. He gets a little addicted and is constantly asking if you let him play with it once to play with it again, no matter who it is. But when you're traveling, you also know that certain rules that you have any other time do not necessarily apply. So one thing that we do like to do is also get the tablets. Again, we'll download some movies. We might download a couple games that you don't necessarily need Wi-Fi for, and make that accessible to him so that he can play on it and play with it and just kind of keep himself entertained. We also have a portable DVD player that we bought a while ago when my son was our only child, and he has a ton of DVDs, and so we would just bring that. It has a car charger, which is great, and we would just grab a handful of DVDs and let him watch some of those when we needed just some quiet time. He needed some quiet time. We throw some headphones on it, let him watch a movie. It's a beautiful thing. Also, when your tablets start to die, if you don't necessarily have a charger for your back seat or a charger that's long enough to reach, then you obviously have to bring the tablet up front with you to charge it. So having that portable DVD player was nice, so we could grab the tablets every once in a while and let them charge on long trips, and he could watch a movie while they were charging. You can kind of rotate through the electronics. He also loves I Spy games and search and find games, and so they have this great I Spy card game that you can get that they can play, which is super fun. And the search and find books, kind of like Where's Waldo. I mean, he loves those, and those will keep him entertained forever. And so we get some of those for him. Also, travel pillow and blanket are essential because they fall asleep all the time. You want them to be comfortable. You don't want to hear them complain for hours about how their butt hurts. So, trying to make them as comfortable as possible is really key. Fun car games. One that we like to play is the license plate game. It also helps them, especially at my son's age, kind of keep up with their ABCs, help them recognize letters. You search for letters on license plates. It's simple, it's fun, and just something that, they can keep up with. And just some things that I kind of picked up to help with my sanity, and especially when I'm traveling by myself. make sure that you stay hydrated, lots of hydration. I know it seems kind of counterintuitive because then you'll have to stop and pee a lot. But for me, I get headaches and I get really tired when I don't stay hydrated. So I like to have a big like metal water bottle on hand when I travel. It kind of looks like this. I fill it up. I also will have like a Mountain Dew or something with caffeine in it to help, but I do drink a lot of water when I travel, so you don't get like muscle cramps and stuff too, because that sucks. Also, I make sure to wear comfy clothes. I know you don't want to look like a bum when you get out at rest areas and convenience stores, but when you're in the car for 7 hours and your children are screaming at you that they are ready to be at Mimi's house, you just want to be comfortable. So comfy clothes, sports bra, yoga pants, you know, comfy shirt. It's how I live my life on the daily anyway, so it wasn't a problem for me, but you know, whatever. Pack food in a small cooler. So for me, I just took a trip with both of my kids by myself just recently, and what I did is the night before, packed up some pieces of cheese, some PB&Js, and some yogurts, and went ahead and got just like a little cold bag, put some ice packs in it, and threw it all together. And then that way on the trip down, I didn't have to stop for lunch and get them fast food and try to go through the drive-thru and then feed it to them. And you know, you've got drinks and cups that are gonna spill, and it's just chaos. So it was much easier to hand them a PB&J and some cheese and some gummies and just be like, there you go, you got your sippy cups, your sports drink, you're good to go. And I also like to keep snacks and things like that in a shower caddy. It's just way easy. I stick it in the passenger seat. I will put some snacks in it. I might put an extra charger or another tablet, just the things that I really want to be accessible to me, just right there so I can grab it and hand it, and I don't have to go searching for things while I'm driving. And then also that way I don't have to stop, because that's the goal, is to stop as little as possible. Also headphones, big thing. That way either I can have one headphone in and drive and listen to music if they're both asleep. I don't want to wake them up. Or my son can have headphones in. Just headphones are key. Also, the quiet game, you know, like, hey, how long can we be quiet? Not long at all, but never hurts to try. And then last but not least, the essentials for all ages, which I think probably makes sense at this point. You can kind of look through the video and see the themes that follow through, but it never hurts to mention medicines is one thing that I didn't mention in any of the categories because I knew I was going to be mentioning it here. Things like Motrin, Tylenol, Benadryl. My kids have awful allergies. My son has awful allergies, and sometimes even though they'll take Zyrtec, they still will have an allergy attack, and Benadryl is the only thing that can help them out. So when we're on the road, and especially traveling through different states that have different, you know, pollen and this and that and the other, it helps to have Benadryl on hand. Tylenol and Motrin, obviously, just for any aches and pains or things like that. And for my son, he sometimes will have random gas pains, this or that, so we have some Pepto-Bismol for kids on hand usually, or gas drops for my daughter. Those things are usually just essentials for us. We keep them with us no matter where we go, but especially when we're traveling. Extra wipes and extra pair of clothes, always, for both children, for all children. You never know what's going to happen in the car. They could spill a drink. We were traveling one time on a trip, and an hour and a half into our 8-hour trip, my son looks at me and says, "Mom, I think I'm going to throw up," and threw up all over himself and his blanket and his pillow, and we ended up having to stop at a random Dollar General, buy him a new blanket, dig through his bag for a new set of clothes. It was just miserable, but it taught us a valuable lesson. Always have things like a pair of clothes on hand. It's essential. Easy on and off shoes for everybody. I like to drive sometimes with my shoes off. My kids can't stand keeping their shoes on. So when we're traveling, I usually will have my son just slip on either a pair of sandals. If it's cold, I'll make him put a pair of socks on with him. And my daughter, I won't even put shoes on. I will just throw some socks on. And if for whatever reason I have to set her down when we're out somewhere and her socks get dirty, I will just make sure I have an extra pair of socks in her diaper bag. That way I can put a clean pair on, because she will just instantly take them off the moment we're in the car, and it's just too much of a pain to try and get them back on when we are at a rest stop and I'm trying to be quick. So yeah, that one is key too. Flip-flops work great. And snacks for everybody. You want to make sure that you have snacks for yourself too, Mama. Don't forget you. It's important to make sure that you're staying hydrated and you're staying well fed. I get awful headaches when I don't eat. And my blood sugar gets low. I am grouchy. And so I will just have things like a trail mix or a granola bar, something super easy that I can eat with one hand that I can just pick at. I have stomach issues, so I don't like to eat whole meals when I'm traveling. It just tends to cause issues for me. So having snacks is key. And also having medicine for yourself. Tylenol, Motrin, Excedrin, migraine, those kinds of things. An extra pair of glasses. I always travel with an extra pair of glasses for myself. I keep them in my center console just in case somehow they fall off and I don't realize it, which I know sounds crazy, but it happens. Or they just end up getting broken on accident while we're at a rest area. I can't see without my glasses, so it is, I mean, just like super important that I have another pair with me. So those are my essentials for a trip for traveling with a kid of any age. Extra chargers. Make sure you got those electronics charged, especially your phone in case of emergencies. One last thing that I like to keep in the car with me. I know it might sound paranoid, but I have an emergency knife. It is one of those that you can cut the seatbelt or break a window, and it is also just a regular knife. If for any reason I am somewhere by myself with the kids and I needed it for any reason, or God forbid I got into a car accident, I have that with me. It's in my center console. It's very handy, and I feel much better having that in the car with me. So it was only like $15 on Amazon, not that expensive, and very much worth it. And it's always nice to have a set of jumper cables in the car too, mamas. You know, in case you break down, you always want to make sure that you have a way to get yourself out of any sticky situation. You may sound paranoid, but it's better to be paranoid than stuck on the side of the road with your two kids at 8 o'clock in the middle of nowhere and no signal, so no AAA. Think ahead. I have a ton of other tips and tricks, a bunch of just little things, but these seemed like the most helpful, or just some things that seem like common sense but you tend to forget. Or if you've never had a kid before and this is your first time traveling with a baby and a kid and you don't really have anybody to ask, you know, I mean, it might seem like common sense to some people, but you know, it's all Greek to me. Nerd alert. Okay. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that it was useful to somebody. And if you have a question, or a question about a specific thing that maybe you are curious about using, and or maybe thinking that I've used it, feel free to ask in the comment section down below, and I will answer anything that I can. I obviously do a lot of traveling, and it gets tiring and it is exhausting. But like I said in the beginning, just remember that do your best. Your kids are fine. They may whine and cry and complain, but if you're feeding them and changing them and they are healthy and happy, just let them cry. They'll be all right. And if all else fails, Benadryl. They'll go to sleep. Just drug them. I'm just kidding. Really, I'm just kidding. Maybe. I don't know. Am I? So, thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. The next sit down video is going to be a surprise because I don't know what it is yet. So stay tuned if you want to see it. And I think that's it. I think this is the end of my first sit down video. Wow, guys, I did it. I was consistent. Pat on the back to me. You know, just reward yourself for the little things. So much love and many blessings to you guys. I hope you stick around, and I will see you next time.